A lot of people think the bottom for silver might be in, but I would hold off for a second because I don't think that's actually going to be the case. So as of right now, it looks like silver's doing a little thing because it's in the green as well as gold. And so what is key, I believe, is this $59 price action right here and whether or not it can get above $60 and stay that way and or go higher. Because based on this trend here, it tells me that this is a coordinated event, that it might not be over just yet. And that, my friends, is something we're going to talk about. All right, so I want to take a minute to share some thoughts in reference to some comments from the Telegram group. And I wanted to just share my 2 cents as I was just looking at the charts. And of course, not a TA guy, but just looking at the trend, it's not hard to tell where things are trending. And it's by deliberate intentions from the controlling forces that be. And what I mean by that is it's not just the Western Hemisphere now. I believe it's also a part of the coordinated attempts by the Eastern Hemisphere working together in tandem to make sure that the price of gold and silver don't surprise anyone by having a out of the blue surge as a result of the increased demand and in a time where we know supply is still a major issue. And so as I mentioned, it was this post here from the daily chart that I post on the Telegram of just gold and silver, from early morning activity. And so even here, gold is in the green, or silver rather is in the green. And so we had Jason and Dennis both, fellow community members, sharing their thoughts on it. So Jason says bottom might be in with a question mark. And then Dennis followed up and said, I hope so. And so that was a part of the reason why I wanted to make this video, just to share my 2 cents on it. And of course, not to be a Debbie Downer, but just want to be one of the more realistic approach towards the fact that I don't think silver and gold is actually bottomed as long as we're in this current environment where liquidity is still an issue and the illusion of risk on assets not being something that is being allowed to shine right now. And of course, I think it's deliberate given that all attention is focused on the 250th anniversary. We have Donald Trump out here sharing a golden eagle on the White House balcony. And of course, they're saying that it's an AI generated image, but I'll save this for another day. But the primary reason I wanted to make this video is because as you can see here, this is the price comparison from the Shanghai price setting mechanisms to the Western price setting mechanisms. And a lot's changed since we had that initial pop to an all-time high of $120 from the Western side. And so as you can see on here, I'm gonna zoom in some so you can see what I'm referring to here. But as I mentioned, back when we had this silver surge, which of course you can see was led by the Eastern Hemisphere, i.e. the Shanghai Futures Exchange, to where priced in USD terms, it would have equated to about $133, not $120, which is what we had in USD terms, according to the Western metrics. But as we can see here, the red was leading the way and has been all along. But it's just a difference price, also known as the premium, which was really catching people's attention because during that time, I believe it was 10 plus, $12, $13 spot price difference. And it's that euphoria and excitement that got a lot of people excited. And of course, controlling forces managed to bring the price down, but that spread still remained for quite some time until, as it shows here, about March 20th is where things began to even off to where it looked as if the Eastern and the Western Hemisphere got in sync with how they're going to allow the silver price to mirror each other, i.e. lesser premiums at the end of the day. And so ever since March of this year, we've been flowing along, same type of trajectory. Shanghai futures spot price always higher than the Western spot price of about $7 or so. So literally, when everything broke out initially, it was $10 plus, but now they've settled on allowing it to be less than 10, approximately $7 or so. And so here we are now, just cruising right along, activity trending down, still keeping that spread margin all the way throughout. And so for me, that's how I realized that this is just not some accidental correction. It's more so of a coordinated attempt that benefits the Western Hemisphere because it allows the bullion banks to continue to do what they do on the Crimex and things of that nature. And it keeps attention off of gold and silver, especially as they're bringing gold down along with it. But all along, of course, in the Eastern Hemisphere, China is still doing what they're doing best, continuing to get their weight up. There's charts out there, go find it if you want, just showing that they're continuing to add to their stack, and they're restricting gold and silver, for the most part, from leaving their country there, while still building infrastructure and alternatives to the dollar. So that's still there. And so in reference to this whole bottom aspect of what I want to get to now, this, I believe, is where it gets interesting, because as you can see on this chart here, with that same action I just showed you in comparison to Shanghai and the Western bullion spot price here, as we've gone downward, that premium spread has decreased to the point where now it's about $7 or so, according to that graph that we saw there. And so it's all about placing a new ceiling on the silver spot price and doing whatever it takes to make sure that that ceiling is not touched again, while also further manipulating things by dumping more futures and paper contracts of nothing, driving the price even lower, creating a new ceiling And so the fact that we're right now at $59 or so, approaching 60, the real test is going to be whether or not that 60 is the new ceiling that they place, and then we tread right along with them continuing to try to manipulate things, driving it even lower. And so by now, I'm sure you get the hint. And so just looking at this chart here, I placed some lines just over some time points that I think is worth paying attention to. So the very top line here is the peak, is where things got out of hand, and it set an all-time new high of 133 over in the Western Hemisphere and 133 or 120 over here in the Western Hemisphere, Eastern Western, you get my drift. And so, of course, they maneuvered it to where they could slam it down. And so from the time they slammed it down to what it was, about 80 or so, it started to try to retest that previous high, and it got up to, looks like about 95 or so, we'll say, just around this line here. And of course, it slammed down from there. And so it treaded it along, attempted to try to come back up to that previous second line here, but it did not, slammed it down again. And so now this third red line here became the next ceiling, of which it surged past that, got up to about $90 or so, and that was in the middle of May. And so from, was this March, the middle of March, all the way to the middle of May, it hovered around and below 80 on average, as we can see here. And then after that last surge, head into this fourth line where $80 became the ceiling. It touched 80, but then it came down. They did everything they could to make sure it did not touch 80 again. And then voila, here's the fifth red line over here. And as we can see, this fifth red line became 70. So 70 became the new ceiling. And of course, they slammed it down. It touched 70 again, but it wasn't able to maintain 70. And so here we are again, bam, it broke below 60. And so as of now, the goal that they have is to make sure that it doesn't touch 60 again. And so that's why at this current moment of seeing 59.66, that might be exciting because it's in the green, but if 60 is the new projected ceiling that they want to make sure they maintain, it's good to say that it might not touch 60 and stay there, and it might come back down. And so time will tell whether or not 60 is this current temporary ceiling that they're going to place on it, which might get us through the rest of this week and of course holiday weekend and into the early parts of July. And if it's able to maintain or bounce off that 60 a couple times, perhaps it might break above 60. And this whole theory that I'm coming up with could be completely off. But once again, this is just me taking a minute to share my 2 cents on how I don't think the bottom is in, because as long as they're able to control the spot price, never mind the actual physical accumulation is still taking place, it's good to say that this can probably draw on for quite some time, on top of all the other things happening with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin and every other asset that they would not want us to focus on as a safe haven. And so I believe the manipulation will continue. So the bottom is not in until something officially breaks, where it becomes obvious and beyond their ability to continue to manipulate things. And so with all that being said, you know what to do. If this is true, you're going to see lower lows. And therefore, that equates to buying opportunities for those who are in position to do such, or realize that manipulation is your friend. So once again, just taking a minute to share my 2 cents. Curious to hear what you think. If there was any value shared here, hit that thumbs up button, drop a comment, take this and share it so others can be blessed. And I'll catch you later. Peace.